You can't have a mainline Gears of War game without a multiplayer, right? So we've got to discuss the multiplayer in full detail, but there's just so much to talk about. So I'm going to break it down into different episodes, talking about the different aspects of multiplayer and what we Gears fans want to see, based off what I think, based off your comments, and from discussing with so many people in the Gears community over the years. So as always, I'm your host Abz, and let's discuss 5 multiplayer game modes needed in Gears of War Eday. Firstly, I'll tell you right now that we need Overrun to finally make its return after over a decade since Gears Judgment, and for it to be a huge staple for Eday's multiplayer. Overrun is going to appeal to the masses, as opposed to the legacy multiplayer, which we'll get to later. I think that it should be class based, and I have so many ideas for a potential Overrun resurgence. Now then, you could potentially have a classic 5v5 Overrun, but I'm thinking that there should be a ground war, big team battle Overrun version as well. I'm talking huge scale, possibly 20v20, 30 vs 30, or way more than that to be honest, to really encapsulate Emergence Day into multiplayer form. And as you know here on the channel, we know a thing or two about Gears of War lore, so in an Overrun game mode, you can use the lore and universe to make it even more unique. So let's discuss some of those ideas. So for the COG you will have classes and many characters in those classes. For instance, Scout, Medic, Heavy, Assault, etc. so that they're well balanced with the humanoid locust variants who would only have specific weapons. For instance, the Locust Grenadiers, who are only holding the Nasher, frag grenades, and possibly a Boltok. The COG can have silverbacks, turrets, and more at their arsenal, and maybe even some fortifications to even the odds. They could also have rat bikes, rat trucks, and maybe even a Junker or APC, but that probably depends on the scale of the map and the enemies. Now for the Locust Horde, this is where it gets juicy, cause it's gotta have an endless selection of Locust enemies. All the Locust drone types, Cantus, Boomers, Berserkers, Hollow Creatures, and even potentially Locust Generals, where players who are on a kill streak could perhaps unlock guys like Ram and Scourge. Actually, on the topic of kill streaks, I think that would be an amazing addition to Overrun, because let's say a COG player is on a 10, 15, 20 plus kill streak. They could potentially summon a King Raven, a Centaur tank, a King Raven gunship, a supply drop. Or imagine if someone hits a 30 player kill streak and it deploys the emulsion countermeasure weapon that ends the game by killing the Locust, similar to how the nuke would work in older COD Modern Warfare games. Not every idea I'm saying will be perfect, some of them will be dead, but also just spitballing ideas and even taking some ideas from other games but putting a unique gear spin on it. What's even more interesting with Overrun is that there can be many different rotating objective modes within Overrun itself. So I'm thinking there could be a domination type mode, maybe a payload mode where the COG and Locust are escorting supplies, or whatever it may be. Perhaps a generator mode like the one in Judgment, or even, hear me out, a Guardian mode within Overrun itself. So basically the rules of Guardian: one leader on each team, unlimited respawns until the leader is wiped out. It could be Chairman Daliel or General Salomon or Colonel Hoffman for the COG, and then General Ram for the Locust, with the COG being able to set many fortifications to protect their leader, whereas Ram would just be an absolute machine to take on, who needs very little protection. So therefore the COG would naturally play more defensively, while the Locust and their leader would naturally be on the offensive. But overall, I genuinely believe Overrun will be a game changer and has to be a staple in Gears Eday's multiplayer. It can be sustainable and appealing to the masses, with future updates adding more COG and Locust classes, weapons, vehicles, and more, while the legacy multiplayer will always really appeal to us die-hard Gears fans. Something like Overrun would open the door to hundreds of thousands of gamers. At number 2, I want to discuss Beast Mode, but not as you know it. It's time to evolve Beast Mode, and here is the idea I'm presenting to you today. Beast Mode originated basically in order to finally play as the Locust Beasts. But who said it only has to be Locust Beasts? Instead of having Beast vs AI, where the player base fell off pretty quickly and it became a bit repetitive, I'm thinking turn Beast Mode into Locust vs Lambent territory. Two sides, the Locust Horde and the Lambent Atrocities, and freaking go all out with it. It could have a 5v5 variant and a war variant as well, just like Overrun. with a huge enemy roster to choose from for the Locust and the Lambent. Lambent players who are Drudges, for instance, have the ability to mutate, and the Coalition could also create many Lambent variants we've never seen before. Throw in Lambent Boomer variants, Lambent Tickers, Lambent Blood Mounts and more. These enemies would have been a thing anyway, but Epic Games didn't really explore the Lambent as much as they could have. The enemy roster for both sides would be crazy. I'd assume this version of Beast Mode would pretty much be a deathmatch setting, with limited respawns, so you'd have to pick your beast carefully. And the Locust vs Lambent Beast Mode would force players to have different team setups, and not just spamming Lambent Gunkers for instance. There would be different metas and setups which would be really interesting in my opinion. So let's say it's a 5v5 matchup. On the Locust team you could have an assault troop like the Locust Drone, a Theron Sniper class, a Cantus Healer, a Boomer Heavy and a Mauler as a shield. On the Lambent team you could have a Lambent Drone, a Lambent Drudge, a Lambent Theron Sniper class, a Gunker Heavy, and let's say maybe a Lambent Berserker. The Lambent would have more firepower and durability, but the Locust would have more healing and shield, so it would be interesting to see how they could potentially try to balance it. Or another idea is that it could be a mixed matchup of all beasts ever seen in Gears of War, Locust, Lambent and Swarm, since multiplayer is non-canon, and then each team would have so many options to choose from for each class, and that way balancing wouldn't really be an issue since both teams have the same character roster to choose from. But either way, this new version of Beast Mode would appeal to the masses, and would be something entirely different, showcasing how Gears and its multiplayer isn't just about bouncing with an Asher and spraying with the Lancer, but so much more than that given the amazing universe at the developer's disposal. Number 3. Horde Mode. I know what you're thinking, Abs, obviously Eday will have Horde. You're right, but we gotta talk how Horde should evolve. Which Horde variants should we have? The enemy roster, and so on. In Gears of War 2 and 3, I really loved the Horde mode, because it wasn't too complicated and it was more of a challenge in my opinion. There weren't any fortifications in Gears 2's Horde, but in Gears 3 it was introduced well. In Gears 4 most of the enemy roster was robots, so I didn't really enjoy it, but in Gears 5 the enemy roster was great in the end, but I feel like you just kinda sat there repairing most of the time. But the class system in Gears 5's Horde was great. I think there may need to be a class-based defense Horde variant and an OG, hardcore, survival of the fittest Horde variant like in Gears 2, but add many more ideas to it, like emergence holes, kill streaks, supply drops from King Ravens, the ability to call for a King Raven extraction when you and your friends want to end on a particular wave. And also, please go all out with the enemy roster. There is absolutely no reason why General Rahm and the Krill can't be a boss fight, or Scourge and his Hydra, Krav Jamad, Uzil Srark, and more. And add enemies like the Lambent over time. There's so much they can do with it, honestly. I remember there being a zombies variant in Black Ops 2 called Grief, and it was basically two teams taking on the zombies to pretty much see who lasts longer. I'm thinking that what if we take this idea for Eday and have one team of COG and one team of UIR taking on the Horde. They're not part of the same team, and you can't just go start killing the UIR for instance. They're friendlies but they're not part of your squad to share ammo with, or you can't tamper with their supplies, etc. I think that would be really cool. It would essentially be like a Horde versus mode to see which team survives the longest. We're gonna move to the traditional multiplayer now, so for number 4 we have Thrashball. Thrashball has been a big part of the Gears universe through number 83, the Cold Train, but I'm thinking that Thrashball should make its way as a multiplayer mode in Gears Eday. Thrashball would basically play like Uplink from Call of Duty, where you have the ball and need to score, but you can run with it or pass it to teammates, and killing opponents who have the ball causes it to fall on the floor, ready to be contested again. The ball would also reset when it would fall out of bounds. I think Gears would be perfect for this. You could run with the Thrashball and melee with it, but you wouldn't be able to use any weapons if you're holding the Thrashball. Also, throwing the Thrashball would be like how you throw the grenades anyway in Gears gameplay, so that would be a smooth transition. Let me know what you think of this Thrashball game mode idea. At number 5, it's time we address the elephant in the room, and yes, that is the need for the unforgettable Wingman to return in all of its glory. I absolutely loved Wingman in Gears 2 and 3, and I really miss playing it. Please, Coalition, give us Wingman after so many years. Let's have a core Wingman mode. 5 teams, either it's characters or factions. So you can have COG, UIR, Locust, Lambert and Stranded, which would be really cool in my opinion. Or you can have duos, like Marcus and Dom, Baird and Cole, Ram and Scourge, Locust Drone and Grenadier, etc. Or you could just have the same characters like how it always was. I'm also thinking that why can't we have a bigger wingman mode? Even if you want to bump 5 teams up to 10 or 15 and have it play on the overall maps, I don't know. It could have little elements of Battle Royale potentially. Although obviously, hang on a second, I'm not saying make it a Battle Royale. Just taking some ideas from it but adding the unique Gears twist. A 5-team old school wingman mode would be too sweet, but in 2025 or 26, whenever Eday releases, with how far multiplayer has gone in recent years, I think the restrictions shouldn't just be bound to 10 players. The possibilities are literally endless, so please Coalition try to expand where necessary, but add the Gears twist, and take advantage of the absolutely amazing universe and lore to come up with ideas that fit the world of Gears. Don't chase any trends, but keep an open mind. Keep some of the traditional modes, but expand like crazy with modes like Overrun, Beast Mode, and even Horde, and whatever else that can work based on Gears' core gameplay. Gears of War's game modes aren't just 5v5 execution or team deathmatch. Come on, we can do so much more than that now. The franchise is almost 20 years old. Let's innovate that to the next level using the amazing concepts and ideas that this franchise has to offer. Overrun, Beast Mode, Horde, Thrashball and Wingman are 5 game modes needed in Gears of War Eday. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more similar content like this, and a big special thank you to the YouTube and Patreon members for your additional support as always. I'm your host Abz, and I will catch you guys next time.